Sit with me for a moment. Don't rush off. I watched the fog crawl off the oak trees this morning, peeling back the gray layers of the world, and it finally settled in my bones. I am 84 years old. In the hollow quiet of this house, the silence isn't just empty space anymore. It's a library of echoes. Over the last 8 decades, I have been a front-row witness to a world that shifted beneath my feet. But more than the technology or the politics, I have watched the people leave. My parents, my brothers, my oldest rivals, my truest friends, and finally, the woman who I was certain would be holding my hand until the very last spark went out. They are all gone now. When you reach this vantage point, you become something of a ghost in a world that belongs entirely to the young. I see you out there. I see you rushing, vibrating with anxiety, worrying about things that, from where I am standing, look like tiny grains of sand on an infinite beach. People pull me aside and ask, "Elias, what is it like at the end?" Or they look at me with that soft, tilted head pity, as if being the last one standing is a tragedy of the highest order. But there is a secret to being 84 that no one whispers until you actually arrive. When everything and everyone is stripped away, what remains isn't nothing. It is the truth. If you are younger than me, I need you to listen with your heart, not just your ears. If you are my age, pull up a chair next to mine. Today, I want to tell you about the things that refuse to leave, the things that stay when the house is hushed and the phone finally stops ringing. This is what remains. The first thing I learned, and I learned it the hard way, is that we never truly own anything or anyone. In my 40s and 50s, I was convinced my life was defined by the things I had built. My career path, the deed to this house, my carefully polished reputation in the community. I guarded those things like they were permanent monuments. But at 84, I look down at my hands and I realize they are completely empty. And strangely, that is more than okay. I've watched the homes I loved be sold and repainted by strangers. I've watched my professional legacy be erased by people who weren't even born when I walked out the door for the last time. What remains isn't the trophy on the mantle or the name on the door. It is the character you forged while you were trying to win those things. I realize now that the people we love are merely on loan to us. We don't own our spouses, we don't own our children, we are just the temporary stewards of their time. When you stop trying to possess people and start simply experiencing them, the grief of their departure shifts. It stops feeling like you were robbed and starts feeling like an overwhelming gratitude for the length of the loan. What remains is the love you gave away, because that is the only thing that doesn't rot, rust, or get sold off at an estate sale for pennies on the dollar. When you're young, you live for the big peaks, the wedding day, the massive promotion, the grand, exotic vacation. You spend your entire life squinting at the horizon, looking for the next mountain. But at 84, I realize that life isn't lived on the peaks. Life is the long, dusty walk between them. If I could go back, I wouldn't go looking for more success. I would go looking for more noticing. I would linger 30 minutes longer over a simple cup of coffee. I would listen to the morning birds with the intensity of a man hearing a symphony. What remains at the end of a long journey is a collection of small, beautiful nothings that turned out to be the only somethings that mattered. One of the hardest parts of watching the world empty out is the solitude. Our generation was raised to stay busy, to keep the engine running at all costs. But when the kids moved out and the friends passed into the earth, I was left alone with a total stranger, myself. Most people spend their entire lives running a marathon away from themselves. They use the noise of the television, the chaos of work, and the presence of crowds to drown out their own thoughts. But at 84, you can't run anymore. Your knees won't allow the escape. So you sit. And in that sitting, I found a fortress I didn't know I had. What remains is your internal sanctuary. If you haven't built a relationship with yourself, if you don't like the person you are when the lights are off, old age will be a nightmare. But if you have done the work, it becomes a cathedral. I've learned that I am enough. I've learned to forgive the arrogant man I was at 25 and the stressed man I was at 50. What remains is a quiet, indestructible peace with the man in the mirror. You realize you were your own best friend all along. You were just too busy looking for company to notice. People ask me about regrets. Of course I have them. Only a liar or a fool claims a clean slate. But at 84, there is a massive chasm between regret and remorse. I regret the risks I was too cowardly to take. I regret the words of deep love I kept bottled in my throat because of some misplaced sense of pride. But what remains, and what stings the most, is the remorse for the times I wasn't kind. We spend so much of our vital energy trying to be right. We argue, we build walls, we protect our fragile egos. But as I watch the names in my old address book get crossed out one by one, I realize that being right is the loneliest victory a man can ever achieve. What remains is the realization that kindness was the only correct answer all along, regardless of the argument. If you have someone you can call today, call them, not to settle a score, not to prove a point, just to say, I'm glad you're on the planet, because one day they won't be, and the score you were keeping will mean absolutely nothing. There is a strange, quiet grace in watching the world move on without you. I see the teenagers in the park with their glowing devices and their frantic electric energy. At first it made me bitter. I felt like a leaf being swept off the porch. But then I understood it is supposed to happen this way. What remains is the role of the witness. I am here to see the cycle continue. I look into my grandson's eyes and I see my own father staring back at me from across a century. I see that I am just one tiny stitch in a tapestry that goes on forever. My job isn't to lead the parade anymore, it is to cheer from the sidewalk. There is an immense, heavy freedom in letting go of the need to be important. What remains is the pure joy of watching life renew itself, knowing that a few threads of my story are woven into theirs. So, what remains when everyone has finally left? Gratitude, a fierce, heart-aching, miraculous gratitude for the sheer impossibility of it all, that I got to be here at all, that I got to taste the air, that I got to love, even though I lost, that I got to witness 30,000 sunrises. I am 84, and I am not afraid of the dark anymore, because I've realized the light never actually goes out, it just moves into the next room. If you are listening to this, please don't wait until you're 84 to find what remains. Look for it today. It's in the breath you just took. It's in the person sitting across from you right now. It's in the quiet pulse of your own heart. Thank you for sitting on this porch with me for a little while. If these words found a home in you, share them with someone you love. Subscribe to sit with me again on this journey, and please leave a comment. Tell me, what is one thing you have learned to cherish as the years have passed? I read every single one. It makes this big, quiet house feel a little more like home.